Morning decisions. How about a creamy mocha frappuccino drink? Or sweet vanilla? Smooth caramel, maybe? Or a white chocolate mocha? Whichever you choose, delicious coffee awaits. Find Starbucks Frappuccino drinks wherever you buy your groceries.
Well, it's been a quiet week here in Lake Scabagon, my hometown. This week, the Squids hang out with John Nissen III and geek out over his original artwork. They discuss buying albums based off of album covers, discovering the Christian music scene, Blenderhead, Don't Know, MxPx, TomFest, the Tooth and Nail logo, the Punk Rock Museum, and the importance of personal connections.
But hey, happy Failure Podal Friday, guys.
All right. It's good to be back with you.
Yes. We're just going to dive in and let our guest in.
Oh, all right. Hey.
Hey.
Hello.
Welcome.
How's it going?
Not too bad.
Yeah.
Brock's got some sort of emergency at work or something like that he's got to take care of. So,
no.
So he's going to hopefully jump on in a little bit.
I see a couple of pieces of my art over there at Kevin's.
Yes. I have the flat of the Mario that you did. Somewhere it's in a box over in the closet over there somewhere.
Nice. So you ordered it from me?
I did,
when I
yeah.
was selling those? Oh, cool.
Yep.
That's awesome. Thanks for doing that.
Yeah, no problem.
That was fun. I just did that for kicks, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I was trying out doing high quality art prints to see what it was like, and thought I'd, offer them to people on Instagram. And I've never put up a store or anything, but that was pretty fun.
That's cool.
Yeah, so what that was, it was the Pokinatcha album cover, but it was Mario instead of MxPx.
Oh, cool.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that. That was sick. Yeah.
So I've enjoyed getting to know Brock a little bit.
Yeah. Loving the photos from hanging out. That's cool.
Yeah, that was kind of fun. Like, I think it was when Aaron was on your show, on your podcast, that he said something about living in Salem, and I was like, wait, because I had listened to you guys, sporadically.
Sure. Well, thank you.
When somebody was on that interested me, like I listened to the Frank Tate one because I had met him before and stuff like that. It did work for him, but I was listening to hers. I think you guys or somebody, or I think, Brock said he lived in Salem, and I was like, oh, okay. So, yeah. So we were able to connect right away and go out and have a beer and connected. And then we've met a couple times since then. So it's cool to have him like literally like 3 miles from my house.
Oh, wow.
That's really
cool.
Yeah. Last time he came, he rode his bike over.
I feel like there's a lot of y'all up in the Pacific Northwest region that are connected. Yeah, which is really cool.
Yeah, because I had heard him say that he played in bands in Portland, so I just assumed he lived in Portland.
Oh, right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because he did it one time. Yeah.
I was thinking about like questions I could ask you guys.
Oh,
all right.
Dude.
And to get to know you a little bit, I thought, since we'll probably talk about album covers and stuff, like what is can you remember a time when you saw an album cover that it was like drew you in before you even heard the music?
That's a great question.
There's been a bunch of them. The Blenderhead one was one that I saw the album cover and was like, oh, that looks awesome. I got to get that. Probably Pokinatcha was the same thing, but that was also, there's so many songs on this CD, so I'm getting my money's worth.
Yeah. People said that about Let It Happen, that first the compilation of all their older like demos and stuff. It was like, oh, I'm a kid and I can't afford that much, so this has got like so many songs. I'll just grab this,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, the price per song is awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, there's been a bunch. Like up in Boston, there's a used record store called Nuggets that I used to go into all the time in college. and they had this room full of $1 CDs.
Oh,
And I mean,
nice.
it was just like thousands, like no sorting to it whatsoever. It's like it would be a lot of stuff that got sent into like radio stations, and they were just like, "Yeah, we're not going to play this," or just demos that got sent to various record shops, and they would all just end up at this one shop. So I'd go in and just spend hours just digging through. And for like $1, you'd just be like, "Oh, that's a funny band name. I'll pick that up."
Mhm.
Yeah.
Or like they had tons of tooth and nail stuff, so I would just anything tooth and nail I would grab. Um, that's how I ended up grab. Actually, this is another one. The artwork for the Aunt Betty's album.
Mm.
So I grabbed
Okay.
that and got back to my dorm, and I flip it over and I'm like, wait, Mike Knott? Wait,
Yeah.
I know all the
Mm.
guys that are in these bands.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it was great because like you'd go in with $20 and walk out with just a pile of CDs, and it was like, oh,
Wow.
this one kind of sucks. Oh well, I only lost $1 on it. It's
Yeah. Right.
fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, I think for me it was the Silverchair
Oh,
Frog
Frog
Stomp.
Stomp. Yep.
Yeah, like
Mhm.
that frog on the cover of that album. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
I a buddy of mine who's a much more talented artist. Put I have in fact I think I have it over there somewhere. It's like the old CO2 cars, the
Hmm.
racers that you do in Scouts. Uh, and you have to have them all streamlined. I called it the Frog Stomper, and he painted that frog on there and used that font and everything and that calligraphy. So yeah, that's the one I can remember. Probably the earliest drawing me in.
Hmm.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah, a Green Day's Dookie
Oh yeah.
definitely stood out to me when that came out. Just like the cartoon nature of it was really
Yeah.
cool.
Hmm.
Rage Against the Machine's Evil Empire,
Hmm.
Hmm.
the superhero
With the
style
dude.
cape,
Yeah.
yeah, with the kid. Um, Definitely. Oh, Cake's Fashion Nugget.
Yep.
Like that was a
I don't know if
really
I know what that
cool.
one is. Let me see.
That's I'm getting that right. Like the crown with pig, right?
Yeah.
Oh, the crown one. Yeah.
Isn't that?
Hmm.
I'm saying that now. I'm like, I wonder if I'm right. Yeah, the crown.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But it
Yeah.
definitely for sure in the 90s when you couldn't easily listen to everything, the album covers were so important when you were just guessing a
Yeah.
little bit
Yeah.
when like and going back to the value thing, it was like I have a limited amount of money, so I can't just buy everything. It's going to be a
Right.
select 1 to 3 kind of CDs.
Hmm.
And if you didn't have anything that was a band you were looking forward to, then the album covers I think were really
Hmm.
big motivators of how do I differentiate if I haven't heard it, especially I think kind of in the more alternative Christian music where you didn't necessarily get radio play.
Right.
So even if it was like, so Tooth and Nail was kind of like a stamp of approval. Okay, I'm probably going to like this. But if you're picking one from the 3 or 4 you don't know, the album cover was a
Hmm.
big differentiator, at least for me, of like, how do I make a choice without knowing if I'm going to like it or not? If I
Yep.
like
Yeah.
the art, I think I'm going to like the music. And you made a lot of assumptions, I think, about what it would sound like
Yeah.
Hmm.
based on the art, which
Yeah.
sometimes went your way and sometimes was a
Right.
disappointment when you're like,
Like the One
oh,
Bad
the
Pig
aesthetic is
album.
cool. Yeah. And then it's awful.
Yep.
Or not your cup of tea.
Right.
Yeah.
Two others that grabbed me. Galactic Cowboys, self-titled, where it just
Yeah.
has like the spaceship on the front.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
then there was another one by this band called Slam Cat.
Oh,
Uh, so it was just this cartoon cat, but it was a glow in the dark album cover, and
oh,
it just
wow.
kind of looked like a hockey logo. So it was Slam Cat, El Gato de la Slam, I think was the um, name of the album.
Huh.
Huh.
I should go
Yeah.
grab it. Hang on.
Yeah. Oh, there's so many. I think that's
The
how I got
Smashing Pumpkins too. Melancholy and Infinite Sadness was a
that one.
big.
That's how I got into them was seeing that album cover. Especially like growing up in the Christian music world and then like you're out in the store. My parents were cool with listening to whatever kind of music. I grew up Beatles, Beach Boys, all that stuff. So it wasn't that wasn't an issue, but I didn't really listen to a whole lot of it until I turned on, the radio. But like that first Presidents of the United States of America album cover,
Oh yeah.
I don't know. I guess I had a thing with frogs. Who knows? Like I don't know. Now that I'm looking at it, I'm like, okay. But
Were you a Daniel Johnston guy? Did he pull you
I
into?
wasn't. I wasn't. I should have been. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I love Kermit. So there you go. Yeah.
Mm.
But no, that president's cover drew me in, and I'm like, what is this all about? Probably, and also the name of the band.
Yeah.
I'm like, maybe I can talk about this in my U.S. history class. I don't, but
Yeah. Before the internet, there was not a whole lot of ways to
mhm.
find out about music. So, and because I was kind of like, I don't know, kind of obsessed with music and the visuals that went with it, I would literally go to record shops and look through to get ideas,
Mm.
and or flip through magazines,
Oh yeah, always. Yep.
and that got me some really good inspiration.
Yeah, that's cool.
Nice. So here's,
Oh, okay.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
and then the cat glows in the dark.
Oh, nice.
Very cool. Did it have a sticker on it that said that, or did you have to discover it?
I think it had a sticker on like the shrink wrap.
That would be my guess. Yeah.
There was one album I literally bought. I had no idea what it sounded like, based on the cover. I think I was in Tower Records in Seattle and flipping through, and I saw this band called Man or Astro Man,
Oh yeah.
and it was like a retro illustration, probably pulled from a movie poster or something of a like, robots or whatever. And I saw the list of names and I was like, of the songs, I was like, okay, they're leaning into this
hmm
sci-fi like retro B movie thing. And sure enough, I bought it and that's exactly what it was. It's like surf music for aliens kind of thing.
That's
Yeah. It's
cool.
so they're lots of fun.
And they've been a favorite ever since. I mean, it's been like for a while I bought everything I could find by them, and so have a lot of CDs of theirs and still to this day enjoy it.
Nice.
Those album covers look cool. I just looked it up. That's really
Mhm.
cool.
I kind of like that sci-fi
Yeah.
thing anyway. Or the kind of B-movie sci-fi,
Mm.
mid-century. I'm into that. That over there, that's a shelf with my robot collection over there. But yeah.
Nice.
Cool.
Should we guess what sort of introduction Brock would have given since Brock isn't here?
Yes.
All right. And then when he joins, we'll have him do his
Yeah,
introduction. We'll see
yeah,
how
yeah.
close we are.
Yeah.
All right.
That's great.
All right. So our guest today is John Nissen. John is a British inventor, technologist, and a musician. He attended Bryanston and Clare College in Cambridge, where he obtained a degree in natural sciences. In 1996, he won the SMART Award and set up CloudWorld Ltd. To develop assistive technology. Welcome to the show.
Oh,
Thanks. I thought it was going to be the John Nissen that I found online that makes mannequins or something.
oh, that's cool.
Oh, that's a good one.
Well, let's hope for the best, Brock. Well, welcome
Oh,
to
yeah.
Lake
Thanks for
Scabagon.
having
We're
me.
glad to have you.
This is
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
I suppose, probably what most people actually know you from would be
Yeah.
from the Pokinatcha Punk. So I don't know if you want to talk about how you got involved with MxPx and
Yeah.
how that all came about.
Yeah, so let's go back to maybe how I first connected with that scene. I was really into, lots of different kinds of music when I was a teenager. And then when at 18, when I got saved, I kind of like put a lot of that aside and kind of rethought, some of it. And anyway, long story short, I guess, when I finally heard some music that, was made by Christians that, scratched those itches, that I had, the likes and
Right.
different things. I had had people like try to turn me on to like Altar Boys and Petra,
Mhm.
things like that. And I was kind of a reluctant fan. I would listen to it, but because I thought that's what I had to work with. But then when I discovered, well, this friend that I worked with at this sportswear company, his name is Von Glitchka. We worked together, and he knew I was really into music, and he brought me this Rolling Stone magazine. In the back, they would have these little ads, and it was like, it said, "Why should the devil have all the good music?" And it was like right away, right away for this catalog of Christian music. And I was like, oh, that sounds interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So, imagine I right away, I have to wait to even get the catalog back. Then you have to like make your selections based on like maybe a one-word description if you don't know who these bands are.
The good old days.
And then you have to send away a check and wait for it to come back, your treasures to come back. So, but I was kind of used to doing that because when I was growing up, I was into weird stuff that wasn't at my local. In my teenage years, I lived in a town called Brush Prairie that's near Vancouver, Washington. A little kind of rural, but pretty close to Portland, which later was great for me. But what was close by were malls, and you didn't have the big selection of the weird stuff I wanted to get. So I would have to right away and wait, send checks in the mail and wait for the stuff anyway. So I was kind of used to that. So when I wrote away for that catalog of Christian music, it was like very late 80s. And so, or maybe like early 1990 or something. I don't know. Anyway, so one of the bands in there just said punk, and it was like the Crucified self-titled, and I had no idea. I get that, and it blew my mind. Like, turned my world upside down. I'm like, oh, wait, so Christians can make this? Like, it was right up my alley. And fast forward like a year or two, something like that, my wife and I see that they're coming to Seattle, and I'm like, I can't miss that.
Right.
It was actually a little town outside of Seattle, but anyway, it was at a little hall or something. So we go to that show, and I don't know anything about what's going on in Seattle as far as Christian music at this point. Like, I had been there for quite a few years, knew some of the stuff that was coming up as far as like, local bands. Like in 1986, when I first moved there to go to college or to art school, I went and saw the Butthole Surfers, and the opening band was Soundgarden.
Oh,
wow.
So that's how like,
That's so cool.
I saw Alice in Chains like a week or two before they released their first album, stuff like that. So I was clued in on that stuff,
So
but
cool.
I didn't have any idea what was going on with Christians. And so I go to this Crucified show, and one notable thing was The Guilty, which was Damien Gerardo's punk band, opened. So that was cool.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Blenderhead played that night. And so when you go to a show, you get these flyers for the coming shows. And now I was kind of in the know or whatever. I could find fanzines and stuff to soak up what was going on around me, I didn't know. And so I go to a couple more Blenderhead shows, and I was like, I really like these guys. But I don't really think their art's great, So I was thinking, well, maybe I could help them out because I worked at a sportswear company. I knew how to mock up t-shirts and everything. So, and I had tried this stuff before, like with bands. Like here's one that I've never showed this before ever public. It is. Are you guys seeing it correct the correct way? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because on my
Yeah.
screen, I'm
Yep.
seeing
Yes,
it.
yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
Sure.
but
Right.
Okay.
No, yeah,
I sent
that's
this off to
correct.
the
Yeah.
band and never heard back from them. So I had tried stuff like this before. So I mocked up this t-shirt. I found this in my files the other night. This is literally like pieced together, like, and this
Oh, wow.
guy, I guess for people that are listening, I'll have to describe it. But I found this photo of this guy like bent over laughing because somebody had spit out their false teeth. It's funny because Matt Johnson, when I talked to him at TomCon, he remembered that this is where this was from. I don't know how he remembered that,
Oh, wow.
but anyway,
Wow.
I stuck a blender on the guy's head and mocked this up. I put like a colored piece behind there, laminated it, everything, made it very professional, and sent it off to the band. And like a week or two later, I get this call from Billy. I had never met him before. Maybe I shook his hand at the Crucified show because he had put it on, right? Probably thanked him for doing it, but I didn't know who he was. So he calls me up and he's like, "Why did you do this?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I just want to help you guys out. Like, I like your band." He's like, "Well," he was very appreciative. And so that started our friendship. And we eventually, like, this is where this came from. And then
Oh,
he
sick.
put this on the back.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Ignorance is
So
not
that's
bliss.
where
Yeah.
I kind of stuck my toe in the water of the local scene. And once I knew Billy, I was like, he knew everyone. I found these two. He eventually like used it for his letterhead.
Oh,
Oh,
cool.
cool.
He wrote me like letters with it on here.
Wow.
And so he eventually, we hung out and stuff, and then we found out about this or he said there's this new label that's gonna put out our music, and we're gonna do, I think at first it was like a single. They're gonna do a Blenderhead single on Tooth and Nail. And this was really early on. And he was like, "Do you want to do the album cover or the cover for it?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure, I'd love that." I don't have a great mind for, like, I guess I would say that I'm very literal. I don't, when I'm thinking of art, so that's why that literally had a blender on the guy's head. It's like kind of silly, but
Yep.
so anyway, I started dreaming up like what would this look at like for a cover. And so I sketched some things out, and like I kind of worked out like this kind of like cartoon. I thought, what if it was a cartoon character, maybe some type that looks kind of like superhero. This is literally the inking that I did of it. And then he was on board, but I wasn't satisfied with that. I wanted it to be more refined. And so once I had the idea, I had to try to figure out like how to make this look good. So no digital cameras back then, but I had a Polaroid, and my wife took a picture of me. And that's literally where I got the pose from this Polaroid of me holding my head. And so then I sketched it out in pencil, kind of worked it out. And then I intended to like write a blog about this back when I did my MxPx things, but I never got around to it. So you're seeing these. No one had ever seen these before.
Well, and for those of you listening at home, I mean, if this is cool with you, we can put out the video of this portion, and so then people can see it too. If they just hear our oohs and ahs, you can go see that later.
Yeah, and I thought about scanning these and putting on Instagram, like maybe when this releases or whatever.
Yeah, cool.
Oh yeah,
that works too. Yeah.
And then I inked it more, like refined it, like literally this is how I work. I put vellum over the pencil drawing, I inked it and ink. And then I went even further with this because I didn't know how to use a computer back then, because that was new. It was like personal computers were not that common, and we were just starting to use them at my job. I had been there like 4 years, and they finally got computers for us. And then they had a guy come in and train us how to use them, that use the software and all that kind of stuff. So I wasn't really like familiar with yet how to build artwork on it, but I knew how to like do it the traditional way that we had done for all those years. So literally I go from this inking to, and I can't even believe when I look at this, this is cut out of this stuff called amberlith that used to use for separation, color separations. And when I look at this, I can't believe how good my eyes were back then. There was like such little detail that I had to cut out with X-Acto blade.
Yeah.
And all the negative spaces, just like where you pull it away. So then I shoot a negative of it at work. And then this literally got scanned into the computer, and I built the vector art from that. And again, I was just learning how to use a computer. So this is the very first illustration I ever did on a computer, was the Blenderhead cover.
Wow.
And I was figuring it out, and I had to borrow my friends because they didn't let us use the computers at work for our own stuff. So one of my friends was kind of ahead of all of us, and he had already bought his own Mac. And so he let me spend a couple evenings after work, putting that all together. And I guess Brandon liked it so much that so I could be getting this wrong, but my understanding was that it was going to be a single, but once he saw what I was doing and what the band was putting together, he decided, let's do a full length, right? So,
wow, that's cool.
Nice.
So then, but I think even before that, I had done the Don't Know cassette, chili with beans. Actually, it's called For Great Homemade Chili Turn Here. I think that was, okay, so after I did the Blenderhead shirt, then Billy told the guys from Don't Know About Me, obviously, then they were like, oh, could you do this cover for our cassette tape? And so I found these are mock-ups I did that are like the shape of the cassette and colored with markers. And these are alternate versions, like colored with markers and colored pencils.
Oh man.
And this was like, this was the photo of them that I mocked up like in marker, that then I probably did, if I remember right, is I copied these with a color copier at work, and I put them together. So I was able to kind of splice these together. But Matt Johnson, when he saw it, he was like, can we just use this? And I'm like, no, that's just a mock-up. We need to use actual photos. But that's how much he thought it was cool. That's another funny story is I had never met him before, and he was going to come over to our apartment. We lived on the ground floor of this apartment in Northgate, north of Seattle. And we're talking on the phone, and he's going to bring me over his ideas, like a can of chili, literally. And so I said, well, we had to buzz him. We had to buzz him in. I said, well, how am I going to know that it's you? Because I'll watch for you out the window, because we were on the ground floor and right by the door. He's like, well, I'll probably be the only one with purple hair. And I'm like, yeah, that works.
It's a good identifier.
So, but that Don't Know song, new hairstyle, that was true. They were all, with their wacky hairstyles. So anyway, I did that for Don't Know, and then the Blenderhead cover, and Brandon liked it. I think, was it before that or after that I worked on the Tooth and Nail logo? I think it was before that, before the Poking At You cover. I don't know if any of you guys got the box set, the Tooth and Nail box set, the essay that I wrote.
Oh yeah.
The one part of that
that was great.
Got a little confusing from the editing was that I went to see Focused and Wish for Eden at the House of Funk, and I knew they were going to play the next night at the Crocodile Cafe. And when my wife and I went to see him at the House of Funk, we were standing outside afterwards, and Jesse Sprinkle goes, hey, did you see Brandon Ebel was here? And I'm like, no. And he goes, oh, I think he left. And I was like, ah, dang, I wanted to meet him. And so I had to go to work the next day. And then it was that evening that they're going to play at the Crocodile. So on my way home from work, I was praying, Lord, if you could make this connection happen, I would love to just meet him and offer, my services to him for a logo. Because again, I was all into what Tooth and Nail was doing, but I didn't like their logo. Later, I would find out that it was exactly what I thought, that he just typed it out with a font.
Oh.
So I'm praying that on the
Yep.
way home, and I get home, and on my answering machine is Brandon. I've never met him. I
Whoa.
Oh,
don't know
wow.
how he got my phone number, but probably Billy gave it to him. But that's been a mystery, But anyway, I was shocked because here I am, like, I want to make this connection. Well, he had already left. He already went back to Anaheim, or where? No, wait a
Right.
minute,
Mhm.
Anaheim, or well, somewhere in Orange County. So I wouldn't have been able to connect with him. That night anyway.
Mhm.
So that was kind of interesting, and that conversation, I still have notes that I took from that conversation about what kind of stuff he wanted in the logo. And I remember things like he said, I want it to look like it had been around a while, not trendy, you know. And I thought that was good. That was, I mean, I don't like to make things look too trendy anyway, so that was a good good art direction. But and then we talked about different logos we liked from other labels and stuff like that. Remember him mentioning 4AD was a label he liked, and stuff like that. But anyway, so um, I had I had done the Tooth and Nail logo, I think, too, when he asked me if I would work on MxPx. I had seen them play a few times. The first time that I became aware of them, we were at one of the House of Funk shows that was just, you've heard about that place. It's just basically a band house that would
Oh, yeah.
put on shows, and it was
Mhm.
just a tight little room, living room, and we would all jam pack into there, and they'd close all the doors and windows because to try to not disturb the neighbors, and I'm sure it still did, but and then between the bands, we'd all file out into the street, like trying to catch our breaths. But so he asked me if I would. Well, okay. So the first time I saw MXPX was at the House of Funk, and like I didn't know who these kids were that were loading their stuff in, their equipment in,
Wow.
and I
Sure.
think I was 26, and I think they were 17. So I'm like 9 years older than they are. But they blew the doors off the place. And when we were leaving, we were walking down the street to our car, and I told my wife, there's a lot of great bands in the scene, but those guys are going to go somewhere. So
Mhm.
anyway, when Brandon asked me if I would work on the cover, I was like, I was into it. And I think I talked to Mike Carrera on the phone, and we talked about different ideas. And I had been working at my job at the sportswear company. We had been working on these fake mascots for teams, like fake teams. Like I think I did like the
Mhm.
Yeah.
Cal or the Seattle Rain, like literally like a raindrop with grunge clothes on or something. It's like
Right.
Oh, wow.
they're like a sport, like it's a sports team. And so I had this idea of a mascot kind of idea in my head, and Mike was into it because he mentioned some of one of his favorite um, bands as far as their look was Screeching Weasel, because they had the weasel.
Mm.
Mhm.
And
Yep.
Mhm.
so I sketched out some stuff in my sketchbook, and then they were recording at the little studio, and so they invited us to come down there and talk to them about the ideas or whatever. And one of the ideas is this I've showed this on Instagram before, but this is like the first sketch I did of like the
Hmm.
Punk
Oh wow.
type of thing. And they were into it and they said, yeah, let's do that. And so then as I normally do, I like went off and like overdid it and made this character that was like more realistic proportions and it looked more tough and it was just, you know, it looked good, but it when I showed it to Mike, he's like, no, I don't no, that's not what you showed me originally. I was like, ah, oh, he's right.
Hmm.
You know, he says, no, I want you to go back to that other sketch and work that out.
Oh wow.
So I did, and this is also something I've never showed before, but this is like an inking I did with a brush pen, and I did it small so it would force me to make the lines bold. And so that's the
Yeah.
Hmm.
first like closest thing to a first sketch of the Pokemon Punk. And then from that, I blew it up and inked it
Mm.
cleaner. This is like tracing paper mounted
Nice.
to piece of
Yeah.
paper. But so that's the original inking that I went off of. Again, I've never showed these two things before, ever.
That's so cool.
That's so cool. And like the bold lines on it, that was something that definitely like stuck out to me when I first saw the album cover. That was actually my
Oh,
very first
nice.
tattoo was of the Pokenacha Punk. And when I brought the design in to have them do it, they're like, "Oh man, these are like really bold lines. Like that's so
That's
cool."
great to
So
hear. I think my style was kind of dictated by the work I was doing because in
Mm.
in
Mhm.
sportswear back then you had to do all the separations by hand like I was saying. So keeping things bold was so much better than having thin little lines that I had to try to follow when I was cutting out that the separations, you know.
Mhm.
And so plus it just looked
Mhm.
better, you know, and I knew it would translate to when it was small.
Yep.
And I was also just thinking about like what a real logo is, you know, because I think that's one thing that kind of separated maybe me from other artists is just like my background in graphic design and logo creation because like I never intended to have to draw this guy any other pose. Like I'm not a
Mhm.
animator. I it's a struggle
Okay.
when I have to try to think, okay, how would he look at a different pose? And I did struggle with that when I had to do the next, you know, teenage politics, you know. So I had to then figure
Right.
Mhm.
out, okay, well, if he's not got this extruded, like big foot in the front, small foot in the back, like what does he look like? Like, I don't know. You know, I hadn't really thought I would ever have
Mhm.
to deal with that because, you know, normally you do something for a band and it's used one time on an album cover and then they move on,
Right.
right? They don't survive
Right.
as a band. And so it was kind of a cool thing that they did so well, but also then I had to kind of try to find out or find it in me to carry that on to other poses. So even to this day, I'm not that comfortable with figure drawing. So anyway, but that's kind of how that came about. And I used I don't know if you guys ever read my blog post about the Pokédex Punk stuff, but I go into some detail about like why it's colored that way and why one of his eyes is bigger than the other, and the way he's clothed was important because those are the kind of clothes that I wore when I was growing up. I couldn't afford like big Doc Marten boots, and so like things like that. It was just like
Mhm.
all the little details that went into the thought process was all just part of me, you know.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Is that still up
Mhm.
online?
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. I'll make sure I put
Okay.
a link to it in the show notes
Yeah.
so
I
people
did
can
one
check that
for
out.
Pokenachi and I did one for Teenage Politics. so that led me to MxPx. And then around that time, like literally the same week, I think the same week that Poconacha came out, my son was born. It was our first kid,
Oh wow.
and we were kind of waiting to have our kid, and then we would move, because I was talking to this company down here in Salem for a couple years, and we just weren't ready to make the move, because we are kind of nervous about losing our really good health insurance, that we had in Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
And so once he was born, we're like, let's do it. So 4 months, when he was 4 months old, we moved down here to Salem for me to take a job at a place, called Church Artworks, which did graphic design and mostly t-shirt design for ministries and churches all over the country. Prior to that, when I was at the sportswear company, I was doing art for, branded, licensed shirts for places like, Walmart, Target, Mervyn's, all the big chains. And it was characters, like sometimes we would do original characters, sometimes we would do, like I said, licensed products like Garfield the cat, or Looney Tunes, the Jetsons, Ren and Stimpy we did for a while. So I was kind of drawing all those things and coming up with ideas for those things. And then, but the company was kind of, I could see the writing on the wall that, it wasn't great. They were big at that point, but I could see that they weren't going to grow probably much more, and it probably was going to go down. So I was kind of looking for a way out, and this opportunity opened up in Salem at this Church Artworks. And I thought, well, not only is it a good opportunity probably for my career, but possibly, but you just never know, but possibly, but also I thought it might be a better
Right.
work environment, because the prior place was very competitive. I mean, I liked working there and it was fun and I made some good friends, but the art department was pretty big, and it was pretty cutthroat. Like if you didn't get your designs picked, pretty consistently, you're probably on the chopping block kind of thing. So the stress of that and everything. So I kind of wanted to work at what I thought would be a Christian environment. I thought that sounded appealing to me.
Yeah.
Later, I would find out that that has its own struggles.
Sure.
But I was there 22 years at that company, so I think
Wow.
it was good for me while I was raising my kids, and it had good stability and security, and like I said, it was like it felt like a family kind of thing. So we moved to Salem, and uh, that's when I kind of got a lot more. I guess that's kind of when I got a lot more work from Mikey Bridges, because I had met him, uh, because I was in the habit of writing away to these bands and, you know, buying their demo tapes or whatever they were offering. I'd see in fanzines and stuff. And I got the first Sometimes Sunday cassette, and I liked it so much, and I was really impressed with their show, like their stage presence and stuff. It was like I was kind of, I don't know, it was impressive how good they put on a show, right? So I got that first cassette and I was like, wow, this is actually pretty well recorded, and the packaging is good. Like I liked the art on the cover and everything, and he was offering it pretty cheap. So I was like, I wrote to the band and I said, hey, can I get like 7 of these? I want to give them out. I don't think I said why, but I said, I want to get like 7 of these. I think they're only like $5 a piece. And so I get a call from Mikey. I'd never met him before. And he was like, Again, maybe I shook his hand one time or something. So he calls me up and he's like, "Why do you want these?" And I told him, "I want to give them out for Christmas presents to my friends. I like it. I like it so much." And he of course loved that idea. And he's like, "Well, instead of paying for shipping, can I just give them to you when I come next weekend? I'm going to play in Seattle." So met up before the show or whatever, and he gave me this bag of cassettes, and that's how we started our friendship. And so then when I moved down here, started going to more shows in Portland, and a lot of those where he was putting on. And then he started talking about, well, I think he talked about this even before we moved down here, but the TomFest, and that sounded great to me because I had never been able to go to Cornerstone, and I thought, well, man, he's making this for me. Like this is exactly the kind of thing I would want to go to. And so I helped him out with the artwork for that. And that ended up, we had like that partnership for years. Like I did the first 4 years of TomFest, the art for those. That was my favorite thing. Every year I looked forward to it, camping out at that and hearing lots of great bands and meeting up with friends, meeting new ones, because then that was kind of like a family, almost like a family reunion spot, because the people I knew from Seattle would come
Right.
to that and I would be able to see them again. And so that was super fun. I was so appreciative of him to put that on. And I'm sure a lot of that all mixed together is how I met Todd Fatal. And when you had him on, that was cool. It reminded me how much I miss having him like around, because he's the life of the party,
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah.
He's
He was
so
amazing.
fun. He's so
Oh,
fun.
such a cool guy.
But yeah, speaking of TomFest, I mean, again, being, in the Northeast, like I would just, see the flyers and,
Yep.
just the iconic,
Yep.
mascot
Yeah.
for the festival on there. And just looking at the lineup, just being like, oh man, I wish I could go to that. There's no way I can swing it, and like if not a lot of my friends, that like live near me would have been into like any of those bands. Like my brother would have gone, but it would have been like the two of us
Yeah.
Yep.
traveling all the way across the country. And then, okay, what do we do? Do we get, we don't want to like bring tents
Yeah.
with us like
Well,
on the
that's what I dealt
plane.
with
And,
trying to think about
so
how to go to
it's,
Cornerstone. I think that's why I never pulled the trigger, because it's like,
yeah.
what do I do? Like the same thing. It's like, do I take a tent on the plane? Like it's just,
Wow. Yeah. Right.
so
Yeah. Yeah. I never got to Cornerstone either. I did Creation a couple times and then Soulfest up here. But yeah, none of those were were anything close to, what we were seeing over at like TomFest and Cornerstone.
Right. The
Um,
closest we had was like Soulfest
yeah.
and Purple Door. Yeah.
Yep. Which, as nice as the views were at Soulfest with like the
Mm,
ski mountain and everything right there, when I finally did get out to the grounds where TomFest was back in the
okay.
year
Yeah.
after TomFest ended, I got to play
Yeah.
not TomFest. That the grounds
Oh,
there,
it's amazing.
it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just beautiful.
Right next to the water and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
A cool story from that first year when Debbie and I went to, my wife's name is Debbie, when we went to that Tom Fest, as like we didn't know what to expect, so we pack our stuff, and I think we dropped off our kid at one my parents' house in Vancouver, and then we go, and it was this like open, like there was roped off areas where you could camp, but it was just first come first serve. So we were like, okay, where do we camp? It's like there, oh, here's a spot kind of under a tree where there'll be some shade, and oh, there's a picnic table right next to it. Let's put our tent here. So we literally just pick a spot, right? And these other younger, they were a little younger than us. At the time, it seemed like there was more separation, but now I know that they weren't that much younger than us. But these guys come over and they want to camp near us, and it's fine. but they are so unprepared. Like, I don't even know if they brought a tent, sleeping bags, food, nothing. So we're like, yeah, sure, you can set up right there and share our picnic table and stuff. Well, we end up making friends with them, and we share our food because we brought like peanut butter and some bread. It's like, sure, you can have some peanut butter bread. And so we made friends with them. So was like 1995 or something. And a couple days ago, Sunday, I went to see Agent Orange with that guy. So he lives
that's
in
cool.
Portland.
Oh,
We
that's
stayed
so
in
cool.
contact.
Oh my.
And so he and some buddies drove down here to Salem. And I was so excited because no concerts happen in Salem. But when I saw that Agent Orange,
Sure,
which
right.
I loved since I was a teenager, I was like, oh, I'm going to that. And so he came down and we hung out for a bit. So that's kind of a cool story about that first TomFest.
That's very
Mhm.
cool.
I love it when a festival like that will like make
Yeah.
those friendships that last,
Yeah.
20, 30
Yeah.
years. Yeah.
Oh, you mean I gotta be friends with you guys for like another
Yep.
20 something years?
I know.
You're
The
stuck with
bad
us.
news. I'm wondering, like what you described of, I like this band, I like this record label. How do I get in contact? I offer some service. Then they say yes and they use it. What did that feel
Yeah.
like? Like that's the
Well,
dream, right?
yeah.
You reach out to an artist you like, and then they say yes.
Well, this is the thing is like, it was a dream come true because I even got into graphic design, I think, because of music. Like, I would redraw band logos, and in my spare time after school, I was trying to develop my art skills by drawing as realistically as I could portraits of my favorite artists. So
Oh, that's
it
cool.
was
Yeah,
that
right.
whole music thing, and then I would squeeze these music projects into every school thing I could figure out how to do. Like, I took a calligraphy class in high school, and what did I do? I did flyers for this classic punk club in Portland called the Satyricon. It's like our version of CBGBs.
Mm.
I'd been there a bunch of times. I loved going there. This little dive place. So I did, for my assignment for school, I did stuff like that, or like a zine cover or whatever. And then when I got to art school, same thing. I would, whenever possible, I would work, you know, indie bands into my projects. And so then like I said, I tried a few times and failed. Like when I would reach out, it was more than just Scatter Few. There was other times. But I kept doing it. Eventually, I met Billy, who was like actually appreciative of my efforts.
Yeah.
And so it was super cool to not only get to do that stuff, but then to see it out in the world and go into a record store or Christian bookstore or whatever and see my art, or in flip through a magazine and see an ad for Blenderhead, or MxPx. And it was like it's super cool to have those things happen. And then it's weird because even now, I've had almost every job I haven't had that many jobs. Like I said, I was at that job for 22 years, but so I told you that I was talking to this company for a couple of years before we came down here. The Blenderhead album had come out, like I said, like right before we moved, because it released, but I had done the art quite a bit sooner. So Brandon was able to get the art into magazines. And so it was so cool because the guy that was going to hire me down here, he had a really good friend of his that he really respected his opinion. And the guy opens a magazine and he says, "You need to do art like this." And he was pointing at the Blenderhead cover and he goes, "Well, I'm hiring that guy right now."
Oh.
stuff like
Oh,
that.
wow.
Or like that year, HM, it was voted HM's album cover of the year, stuff like that. And
Wow.
like
Ooh.
I feel like I'm the most boring person who maybe has ever lived, but I have
Not in this
these
interview, but
weird
okay.
things happen where I'll be at a job interview
Wow.
and they'll be looking through my portfolio and they'll be like, or on this last one, I was at this interview and the guy was looking up on his phone my website. I hadn't put, anyway. He's like, "Oh, you did stuff for Tooth and Nail?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "Oh yeah, I grew up loving that stuff." You know, so he was just the right age
Wow.
where it was like there's a certain age group where it's like you kind of think, well, maybe
Mhm.
they know
Yep.
what
Right.
that art is, but stuff like that. And then to kind of go off of your thing, Jared, I don't know if I answered your question the way you wanted, but um, when my wife and I in 2023 we planned a trip to Vegas to see Billy Idol because we wanted to see him before he got old and couldn't sing anymore. Didn't want to wait too long.
Yeah.
So we planned this trip around seeing him, right? It was our third time to Vegas, and we had thought maybe we were done with Vegas after two times. But then the Punk Rock Museum opened,
Yeah.
and I was
Yep.
like, that's another reason to go back there.
Yeah.
So so we planned this trip and we end up going to the Punk Rock Museum, checking it out, and it's a very busy day because that at the same time that we were there just randomly to see Billy Idol, there was also the When We Were Young or what?
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, that fest.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so there was tons of punks in town, right? Well, because we didn't know that was happening.
Yeah.
But anyway, we go and we didn't buy tickets ahead of time. So we had to wait in the parking lot for an hour. And it was fine because they had vendors out there and we could talk to people about, their stuff they had for sale and everything. So we end up going into the museum an hour later and we're walking through. We go through all of the main area and kind of meander our way through. And I was kind of disappointed I didn't see any MxPx stuff. I was like, oh. But anyway, there's also a bar in that building and a tattoo parlor upstairs. And next to the tattoo parlor is another area where they have like temporary exhibits, whatever. So we're going up the stairs and we pass by this little tiny tattoo parlor. There's barely a walkway to get by it. And there's like a half wall and so the people getting tattooed are like right there. I mean, you can almost reach out and touch them. So we were walking by and Debbie turns to me and she goes, "Look what he's tattooing." And I look and it's the Poconacha Punk, the first drawing.
Yes.
And I was like, the chances of me being here right now to see that,
That's amazing.
Right.
what are the odds? And so
Right.
that's
That's
they're
crazy.
like focused on what they're doing, right? The guy that's getting tattooed is turned away from me, and the guy tattooing, obviously he's focused. But I can see on the table, he's got the printout and then he's working on it. And so I go up and I'm standing there, and there's a couple of young people standing next to me. They said that was their dad. I can't remember how I engaged them, whatever. I said, well, he's getting my art tattooed on him. And they're like, what? I said, yeah, I drew that.
Yeah,
And they're like, well, they're almost done. Why don't you wait around and then you could talk to him. He'd love to meet you or whatever.
Oh, wow.
So I go and finish the other things that I had to look at. And I come back and they finish up and he turns around and I introduced myself and I said, I drew that art that you're getting tattooed on you. The tattoo artist didn't seem like he wanted to have anything to do with me. I don't know if he was nervous that I was going to expect something
Oh, wow.
or
Oh,
whatever.
infringement.
Right,
The
right.
guy was very appreciative, and then he goes, "Oh, I have another one," and he points to another place on his body that has like the the guy from Let It Happen. I think he was on the skateboard, right? He had that somewhere
Oh
else on
yeah.
his body.
Yep.
Mm.
So I got a picture with him. I put this on my Instagram, but got a picture with him and showing his tattoo, his fresh new tattoo. So we talked to them for quite a while. They were there for the festival because MxPx was playing. They were from Bremerton though,
Hmm.
but they flew to Vegas to go see their
Wild.
favorite band. They're from the same hometown as MxPx.
Yeah.
But anyway, we talked to them for quite a while, and then so we say goodbye, and then they go outside, and then we go through the gift shop or wherever, and then we get outside, and there's one spot where you can wait for an Uber, and it's next door. They said
Mhm.
no, go over there because it was so busy that weekend. It was like the parking lot was full. They said it's safer if you just go to this designated spot to wait for your Uber. Well, it's right next to a strip club, but anyway,
Sure.
so there's this park
Mhm.
bench sitting there, and it's that awkward thing where you've already said goodbye to these people, and now you're seeing them again. Hi.
Yeah. Right.
Yep.
Right.
But then there's this, yeah. So
Going
there's
my
this
way.
other
Yeah. Right.
couple that's sitting there, the only other people that are there. And so my wife strikes up a conversation with this lady and starts telling her this coincidence that just happened. And she goes, "Oh, I have an MxPx tattoo." And she shows it to me.
Gosh.
And so I was like, I don't know. At that point, I was so
Oh.
blown away, you know. So yeah, so it's weird stuff that like that has happened, you know,
Yeah.
which makes it fun.
That I was thinking about that earlier when you were describing it. I was like, would you have any idea the enduring nature of a drawing from so long ago? And the fact it's such an iconic image for
Yeah.
those of
Mhm.
us who care that, yeah, there's got to be thousands of Poconachi tattoos, right? I
Oh
mean, like
yeah.
a crazy number of people have that
I think
tattooed
if
on them.
I
It's
would have
everywhere.
even thought that was a possibility, I would have froze, you know. I don't
Sure.
think that that's something
Right.
like everything that's happened in my career, I've not made happen. You know, I've worked hard and
Mm.
I feel like I have put in the effort, but it's like I didn't plan any of that stuff, you know.
Hmm.
Mm.
Yeah, so I think I feel very blessed in a lot of ways, and all these stories are only cool if you realize that I'm just a nobody. Like, you know, it's I haven't traveled the world like some people or like been in front of tons of people or you know like some bands have or whatever, but I just feel like every time like something like that thing in Vegas happens, it feels like God's just smiling on me. I don't know. It's
Mm.
Mm.
I don't know I don't
Mm.
know how else to describe
That's
it.
awesome.
You know, it's such an encouragement, you know.
Yeah.
You know, I took a break from really even wanting to know what MxPx was doing because I'd gotten a little hurt by stuff and for whatever reason they didn't you know they didn't ask me to work on anything and it was fine but I also kind of didn't want to know what they were doing. I took like a decade of like basically trying to ignore them and like what was
Mm.
Mhm.
happening.
Hmm.
And then when Poconacha was going to turn 20, a guy named Chris Barch, who was the leader of their fan club, kind of like a liaison for their fan club,
Mhm.
reached out to me
Yeah.
and was like, "Hey, Poconacha is turning 20. Would you think about doing a piece of art for that?" And at that point, I'd kind of, you know,
Mm.
been through my feelings and I was on the other side. I was like, "Yeah, I think so." You know, that'd be fun. And so one thing led to the next, and I started doing a few things for them again, like t-shirt designs and stuff. When they did Left Coast Live, Mike asked me to do the cover for that, and
Mhm.
so I did all the packaging
Hmm.
for that. That was fun. it was fun to see it come out on vinyl, because I think prior to that, the only thing I had done for them that ended up on vinyl was Teenage Politics, at least that I had a copy of. There were singles and things like that, but as far as a full length, that was the only thing. And so it was cool to see it and get to work with Jason Zymet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he was involved at that point. I can't remember how he and I met, but basically it was through doing stuff for MxPx. But and then in 2018, when they were doing their 10th album, the self-titled, Mike's like, "Hey, would you do a cover for me?" And so that was a process. Like we talked a lot during that time, and like the band has always been good to me. Like I don't have any complaints about them personally. I had issues with their management, mostly. So anyway, it was cool to talk to Mike again and work with him on it. And we did lots of iterations before we finally came up with that art. And then it was cool to have all the different variations.
Yeah.
So we did different color variations and all that kind of stuff. So that was kind of fun. And then I did work on their box set with Jason.
Yep.
Mostly it was kind of trying to restore, because he has another guy he works with, and they're a team. And so for that one, I don't know if they were just trying to help me out, or that they needed my help. But anyway, so I took half of the albums to try to restore to the full size vinyl package. And
well, I know they're meticulous about that. So
and the other guy took the other half. I got the first 5, I think, were the ones I got, because obviously I wanted to do Pokinatch and Teenage Politics. Let It Happen wasn't in there. I still have all the files. Thankfully, I had them on my computer for those first 2, and then a couple of them I had to try to figure out how to restore from files that either Atlantic or whoever owns it now found in their archives and sent us, and I had to just wade through all these files and try to figure out the best way to recreate it. But that was fun, because I got to think back to, like, what would I have done on Pokinatch if I had done the record, like the full length, or like the full size 12 by 12. And I tried to approach it that way and not what I would do now. And so that's what it ended up being. It's a little strange, and but I think that's cool, because I just try to get inside of my head back then, Teenage Politics was good too, because when they released it on vinyl, if I remember right, they didn't have the back cover the same that I laid out for the CD, if I remember correctly. So I was able to make it like the CD. So that was
that's
fun.
awesome.
Nice.
But since then, I haven't done anything for MxPx. So
it was cool to look, because I had the box set upstairs, and it was cool to look through, some of that artwork. Now knowing the backstory, some of the backstory, that's
well, the Tooth and
cool.
Nail one, where I found all my old sketches from the Tooth and Nail logo. Those are literally, I mean, I have even more. Like, I have so many sketches from that. I went overboard on sketching stuff out, but I really wanted it to be something I could be proud of, and I wanted it to be special, and I put a lot of effort into that, and massive amounts of sketches. So some of those I was able to scan and give to Jason for the layout. And so that's where that came from. Fortunately, I have this file cabinet right here that I have a lot of that old stuff, like some of the stuff I showed you tonight. And yeah, I'm kind of glad I kept a lot of that.
Oh, I am too.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, it's
super
so
interesting.
cool. I mean,
Yeah.
these guys know like how big of a Blenderhead fan I am. So it's like to get to see like
Yeah, to
all that
see
stuff. Oh my gosh.
see his eyes light up. I was like going in between. Like
Yeah. Yeah. Whenever what you were saying, Kevin, about the art capturing you know, that's what I love to hear
Mhm,
because that's why I did it the way I did it, you know, because I
mhm.
had a background in design school and stuff, and I was trying to make something that would capture people's attention in a sea of,
Mm,
you know, stuff.
Yeah.
You have
Hmm.
to somehow grab them when it's up against all this other noise, right?
Hmm.
right.
So that's why the bright colors, that's, you know, all those things. And I'm glad it pulled off the way I wanted it to.
Hmm.
So those are cool things to hear as a designer for sure, because I, like I said, I probably wouldn't do those things the same way now,
Hmm.
but it did what I wanted it to do, I feel like.
Yeah. I mean, and especially like, the Blenderhead and the Pokinatcha album covers, like those are two like when I think Tooth and Nail album covers, like those are two of the ones that like
Yeah,
completely jump out.
Yes.
yeah, I appreciate that. A kind of funny thing about working with Brandon too back in the day is he was so focused and so driven that he would he would do weird stuff like like we don't have cell phones back then, you know, so I
Right.
get
Right.
woke up at like 3 in the morning on a weekday and he's calling me and I'm like seriously thinking something must have, like, he must be in trouble, he needs something, and he
Right.
starts talking to me about
Hmm.
whatever art or whatever we're working on,
Good morning. Right.
and I'm like, I kind of, if I remember right, I kind of let him talk for a bit, and I go, Brandon, it's 3 o'clock in the morning, and he's like, oh, it is. I had no idea. I'm just because he was one of the first people that had like mobile phones, so he's literally out walking around
Mhm.
the streets at 3 in the morning, going
Right.
somewhere, and he's like, oh, I'll call him John. You know, like I have a job. I have a job to go to.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
But also one of the cool things I wanted to tell you guys was, so when I was in Seattle, and I was discovering the first, first the that first Crucified, the self-titled, and I was just soaking up as much as I could and trying to find anything. I know I've heard you guys talk about this too, like, how you guys grew up doing that too.
Mhm.
And there was a guy who had this radio show that would go to prisons or something, and he had all this, hard Christian music that he would pipe into prisons, I guess. And for free, you could write to him and he'd send you a cassette of the recordings of what he had played.
Oh wow.
And so it was called like something like Tempered Steel, or I don't remember. But anyway, I get a few of those cassettes, and it was kind of weird because it was just like a radio show. You don't really know if he's gonna say who the band is or anything.
Right.
Mhm.
So I start going, man, I like this. I like these songs. And a bunch of them were from the same band, and it was Empty Tomb. So I was like, man,
Mm.
I gotta try to see these guys. And I was trying to figure out where they're from, and they were in the Northwest scene because like then later I would find that they were in the fanzines and stuff that I was getting from these local guys that were writing fanzines.
Mhm.
And so I was like, I figured out that some of them, at least some of them, lived in Salem. And I was like, well, I don't know anything about
Mm.
Salem, like what I'm going to.
Hmm.
But if some of the guys from Empty
Hmm.
Tomb are from there, it must not be too bad. Was my thought process. So I get here and I go to an MxPx show. I think it might have even been in Salem, somewhere here in Salem. and between the bands, one of the guys from Crux who was Empty Tomb, but they became Crux, comes up to me. I can't remember which one it was. I'm sorry to that guy. He comes
Yep.
up to me.
Right.
He goes, Steve Hook wants to talk to you, wants to meet you. And that's the singer for Empty Tomb. And I was like, okay, well, I'd love to talk to him. And so we end up like setting up a time to go have, coffee or like a lunch. And we end up becoming friends. And here's this guy who made this music that I really liked. And now I became like, he was one of the ones that lived in Salem. So we became friends, and so that was one like kind of cool thing. Then within the first month I was here in Salem, we were in this apartment, and I had passed by this Christian bookstore because I was always kind of on the lookout for Christian bookstores that might have music. So one night I was going to give my wife a break from our baby, and so I took my son John, and we went, like, I took him, just drove down the street to check out this Christian bookstore I had passed. And I go in there with my little infant, and I go straight to the music section, and there's these flyers for TomFest, with my art on it. So he was fussy, so I gave him one of them to play with, chew on, whatever. And the only other person in the store was the employee, and she jokingly said, hey, somebody had to make copies of that and put those there. And I said, well, before that, somebody had to design it, like snarky back at her. Well, that began a friendship with her, and her name is Angela Jones, and Pep Squad ended up writing a song about her, because she was such a good fan.
Oh, wow.
Like, her and her sister would put on, shows here in Salem at churches or whatever. And so we got to be friends with her and her sister. So she invited us to her birthday party, and it's at this Mexican restaurant, and we go, and I end up sitting right across the table from Andy Wiseman, who was in Empty Tomb, was the bass player for Empty Tomb. And we, of course, strike up a conversation. And we have similar, like, bands that we liked when we were young, and because he kind of, grew up the same way I did, into hardcore punk and stuff. I remember at that meal, he said, I think I'm going to leave Crux and I'm going to start my own thing. And that was Shorthanded. And to this day, I'm still working with him on Shorthanded stuff.
Oh, wow.
So we
cool.
became friends, and I think I pretty much did all of their art until Tooth and Nail signed them. And then Tooth and Nail wanted to go with Mitch O'Connell for that album cover. And even though I was a little bit upset, I couldn't really be that upset because I did like his art. I was a fan of him before that. So that was an interesting thing that now to this day, like, Andy he's been an entrepreneur and owned some businesses, and over the years, every once in a while, he would have me work on projects for those companies. And then when he started to record music again, I think in 2021, he started recording Shorthanded music again. He asked me if I would help him with the covers for the art. And it's super cool because he, once a year he goes to Colorado to record at Bill Stevenson's recording studio, the Blasting Room, and does about 3 or 4 songs, and then does all the writing, all the instruments, everything except Bill plays drums. And so Bill, being a hero of him and mine, because I grew up going to Black Flag shows and stuff. He was in Black Flag
Yeah.
and the Descendants. Andy was a huge Descendants fan. In fact, he was the one that turned me on to the Descendants. So that's super cool, kind of like full circle, you know, even though I don't think I saw Black Flag when Bill was with them, but still interesting that when I was a teenager, seeing Black Flag and being like in awe, and then fast forward, my friend is recording with their drummer. It's so cool, and
Right.
It's
I
so
think
crazy.
it's it's really cool when I see somebody who, as they get older, they still keep making art, whether it's music or visuals or whatever, on their own
Mhm.
terms, and it's not because they expect fame or fortune from it. It's just their passion. And so I love what Andy's doing. I think it's super cool. I'm a
Mm.
full supporter of whatever he wants to do. But it's cool how
Mhm.
that interaction with this girl at the Bible bookstore
Really cool.
leads to me meeting another guy from Empty Tomb,
Yeah.
you know. But the Northwest scene has always been kind of that way, where
Yeah.
it's, even when I was growing up in Brush Prairie, Washington, it was like a 45-minute drive to downtown Portland. So as soon as, I mean, I never had an older sibling or anybody that could take me and turn me on to cool music. But as soon as as soon as me and my friends got driver's license, we were gone.
Hmm.
Like, we were to Portland seeing
Hmm.
shows, and the first one I saw was like soon after we got our driver's license. I went to see this classic punk band that had been around since the start, DOA from Canada. That
Oh
was my
yeah.
first punk show, and just fell in love with that whole thing. There was a public access radio program that would come on Thursday nights, and at night I could get it pretty clear on my radio, and I would record this one show. It was Thursday
Yep.
nights. It would start at like 11 or something. So it was a school night, but I would hit record on my tape deck. I would fall asleep, and I was hoping that I would wake up when the tape clicked
Mhm.
off, so I could flip it over and go back to sleep.
Hmm.
And then I would take that tape the next morning or the next day later when I had a chance, maybe the weekend, and I would take the songs that I liked off of there, put them onto these compilation cassettes, and I
Hmm.
still have those. Like, I have a whole bunch of them. I showed them to
Oh, that's
Bob, but
awesome.
like, so that's how I
Yeah.
discovered a lot of the punk music that I later fell in love
That's
with.
so
Because,
cool.
like, I wouldn't even
Mhm.
known to go to that DOA show if it wasn't for this radio program playing it. And I
Right.
heard one song that I liked, and then they didn't end up playing that song. But it was still a cool experience to go to my first punk
Right.
show.
We're finding that, like, as we talk to different people,
Hmm.
how that's how that scene worked. Like, just so many people close knit, and
Yeah.
like people, word of mouth, and it's so interesting to see all that.
In Portland and Seattle, and even south in Eugene, and even up into Vancouver, BC, it's like it's all kind of within a day's drive.
Hmm.
So bands would go up and down the
Hmm.
coast. That's how that became kind of like the Northwest scene, is like we were kind of isolated from the rest of the country, but we had this thing of, these musicians, meeting each other, and then, they would play with each other. And so, like, that just continued when the Christians started doing it, when I was in the late 80s or whatever, whenever it was. And like, Mikey would put on shows in Portland, Billy would put on shows in Seattle, or whoever, and they would
Hmm.
collaborate on stuff. And it was a cool scene. And then um it was an interesting time, and it was a cool time to be around here during that era, because little did I know that when my parents moved us to Brush Prairie, it was right before 8th grade. And so I'm the new kid at school in 8th grade. And I end up sitting next to the other new kid in school. And he and I became fast friends. And um, he was the cool kid from Southern California, and I was the very uncool kid from Olympia, Washington. And I guess side note, he turned me on to a lot of cool music that I had never heard before. So before that, I was listening to a lot of rock and and heavy metal. And
Hmm.
so I go over to his house, and he's got
Hmm.
all these cassettes by bands I had never heard of. Later, I would find out that a lot of it was kind of in the new wave genre, more like on the popular side. But that was so that even that was so radical for us in our, somewhat rural, town. So hearing like for the first time the Cars and the Police and Elvis Costello and the
Mhm.
B-52s and
Mm.
surf punks
Hmm.
and all that. And so it
Hmm.
opened up this whole world to me. And then I started looking for the bands that they were influenced by, and I read books you know, um, and so I discovered more and more stuff, started going back to the early punk, and that eventually led to this, thing where I was interested in hardcore punk, and so then I went to the local shows in Portland and discovered this scene that had, some pretty great bands. And then when I moved to Seattle to go to art school, it just continued. But there was that dance hall ordinance where you couldn't have underage shows in the city.
Mm.
So
Right.
we would have to drive either to like Tacoma or to another small town around there to go to these shows. But that was right as the kind of like college radio thing was starting to grow. And so I got to see multiple times, I got to see
Hmm.
bands like Husker Du, The Replacements, and bands like that. And so that started to grow. And then, like I said, I would see, Soundgarden or Alice in Chains. Um,
Hmm.
Funny thing is, Alice in Chains, I don't know if you knew, they were like a glam band before grunge. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was
Yeah.
interesting.
Mm.
But anyway, I got my first job in Seattle, and I had friends that would go like see Nirvana and see, you know, Pearl Jam and stuff. But then when Nirvana put out Nevermind, I remember I was on my way to work, and I had the radio on, and I hardly ever listened to the radio, but I had the radio on, and they played Smells Like Teen Spirit. And to me, it just sounded like a natural progression of what had been growing, you know? Little did I know that it was
Hmm.
going to
Hmm.
change the world, you know?
Right.
But it was cool to be sort of positioned right in that area because
Yeah.
it affected everything with these bands who are, trying to make it or struggling or whatever. It kind of opened that world. And I don't think that maybe even Tooth and Nail would have exploded as fast if it wasn't for that stuff happening, you know. I just also feel so fortunate to just even be, in the Northwest during that time. Because then I got excited that there was bands like Sometimes Sunday that were doing similar things.
Hmm.
Um, and it didn't feel, I know Mikey has said before that he formed his sound kind of once he heard Alice in Chains, but it's like I didn't see it that way so much. Maybe I was just being hopeful, but
Hmm.
I saw it as a natural, like you're in these waters, like you're going to naturally pick up this, and
Right.
that's what so many of those bands were. That's why they sounded similar because they had similar influences, and then they were
Hmm.
hearing each other, and they were trading band members back and forth, and so it naturally became this
Mhm.
Right.
sound
Mhm.
that was kind of like previous to that was like the Minneapolis scene had grown up like that too. So you had these pockets of areas where that was happening, where it was like this, and I don't know if that could happen today, right? With the internet and everything. I don't know, because people are exposed to so
Hmm.
many different styles, so many different genres.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It was just different back then. There was a definite
Hmm.
scene feeling of a scene.
And I did like kind of the point you made, like at both at the beginning and just a minute ago about how, like kind of focusing on that stuff to just based off of, like your faith and like, like this is what I should be like focusing on. Because I know sort of similar, like growing up in the church and stuff like that. And it was like, okay, we should be listening to Christian music. And man, a lot of it when we were growing up was just not good. And I'm with you. Like Petra,
Right.
eh,
Yeah.
just didn't do anything for me. And then just stumbling across, like The Crucified and like Tooth and Nail and stuff like that. And it was just like, whoa, this is
Yeah,
a totally different ball game. Like this is because I was also listening to like Fugazi and Minor Threat and like Nine Inch
yeah,
Nails and stuff like that. So then it's like, oh,
yeah.
Circle of Dust. Like, whoa, hold on. Like I can listen to this like around
Mhm.
my parents and it's cool.
Yeah, I kind of feel fortunate that I don't have this story. And
Right.
maybe it sounds like, Pete, maybe you had this situation too, where your parents didn't really put restrictions on you. And that was my situation, where I kind of feel fortunate that maybe in a
Right.
way that although although we did go to church, and I guess you could say I grew up in a Christian home, it wasn't
Mm.
as it didn't feel as restrictive as what some of my friends felt,
Mm,
because one, my dad hadn't committed himself to Christ at that point. And so
hmm.
that there was that involved, but also I think I'm just older enough than you guys to where there really wasn't that idea in our parents' minds that we they had to push that
Hmm.
on us. And I think I've heard similar things from other people my age, like Billy Power has said similar thing where like th- his parents, like my parents didn't really like restrict me. Now I did hide some things because there I wasn't going to
Yeah.
take a chance that they were going
Of
to put
course.
the screws down
Same.
if they saw, like the very first cassette I ever bought of my own money. I snuck off because I didn't have a way to get to the store. So my mom's shopping like in Fred Meyer or something. I sneak off to the music section. I quickly grab ACDC's Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap, go through the checkout line, hopefully before she sees me.
Mhm.
And I got away with it.
Yes.
But it was more like I didn't want to have the conversation or possibly her be upset
Yeah.
with the song
Right.
names or whatever. And I also remember one time we were at the mall, and I went off myself to a record store and I bought Motorhead, a double album of Motorhead, and I put it in my bag, and I was like the whole rest of the time I'm like, please don't ask me, please don't ask me what, you know so stuff like that. But other than that, I mean, they didn't put pressure on me to do anything I didn't want to do, or to restrict that kind of stuff. But maybe it's just partly because they just didn't know.
I think for me,
Right.
it was more strongly encouraged that, you listen to
Yeah,
Christian music. Uh, but it's like I said, I'm still listening to like Fugazi and stuff like that, or like They Might Be Giants and Weird
yeah,
Al and stuff like that. And
Right.
then obviously stuff like, House of Pain, like that gets hidden
right,
somewhere where they don't see it because it's got the big old
yeah,
parental
yeah,
advisory on the front.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't even imagine, some of the stuff I was playing in my room now looking back. Because, I mean, they weren't, I mean, I definitely grew up in a Christian home that was open, that
Hmm.
we were there when the doors were open, that kind of stuff. But my dad was like, and I've talked about it before, like my dad was Beach Boys, Beatles, like like he was just the gamut. And then he'd be like, all right, so what are you listening to? But it wasn't like
Yeah.
I want to make sure you're not listening to bad stuff. It was like no, I want to find out what you're listening to. So like POD. So I have just a fond memory of him loving the POD Satellite album, and I'm thinking, oh, he won't like POD, and he's just like jamming to it, like just loving it. So it's all this music I would kind of show him, and then we connected on Weird Al, and then we connect. It's
Yeah.
so it. And my mom's just like, oh, I trust your father, you know. So it was that was cool, but I had to hide The
Yeah.
Simpsons. So
I
for
tried
whatever
not to
reason,
be too restrictive on my kids because of
yeah,
that. I mean, it is a fine
Mhm.
line you walk
Mm.
as a parent,
Mm,
hmm
for sure.
but yeah, and I don't know how they would say they felt about it. Like, did we really pressure them or not? And like, I don't know. I don't feel
yeah.
like I pressured them to only listen to, you know, Christian music, but maybe they had that feeling, but I don't know. It is interesting though, because it's a whole new ballpark when you're the parent,
Yeah.
you know.
Mhm.
So I don't hold that
Right,
against anybody
right.
for, you know.
It's funny because even I think I felt more pressured in my like in youth group to listen to Christian music than I did at home. Even though like we had Petra in our house, okay, but it wasn't like the main, like we listened to all kinds of, Striper was a big one, all these other bands that, so he like we had enough Christian music where on my own
Mhm.
I'm like, oh, I want to check out what this is. And then you have that, what you everybody heard about was you got to burn your secular CDs. My parents were like, you're not going
Yeah.
that week. And I'm like, cool, that works for me, thank you. Like, and so I could still listen to my stuff. So I feel like in my youth group leaders were awesome. I think it was more like the youth camp kind of thing. And then later on we laugh about it. They're like, I wish I'd never, the youth
Yeah.
leaders we talked to, it was like, I
Mhm.
wish I never did that because
Yeah.
that was stupid. you know
Yeah. There was a lot of
It's
silliness,
so
I
cool,
think.
so
But
interesting.
another cool
Right.
connection was when I get a email randomly out of the blue in 2017, and all the warning signs were blaring in my head about that this might be a scam or whatever. But it was this guy saying he was putting together this art show and he wanted me to, have a piece in it. And I was like, what? You know, and so I wrote back asking
Mm,
more pointed questions to see if I felt better about it when he gave me some real answers and more details. And sure enough, it was legit. And
right.
what was cool about it is that this was a guy who he goes by the name Sjogren, but he was curating these art shows in the LA area. Well, so I ended up doing this painting for it, and I had kind of wanted to get back into painting. I hadn't touched paint probably since art school, so it'd been a long time. And so I kind of had this idea, if I ever get back into painting, I'm going to paint with acrylics on a wood panel and blah blah blah. Anyway, so I'm trying to figure out what to do for this show, and I figured something out, and I spent a lot of time painting on it, and then I'm like, well, this is the first time I'm having something in a gallery. I should go to the opening, right? So it was an easy decision because my son lived down there. And so it would be a
Mhm.
cool chance for my wife and I to go see our son. And I feel weird. I'm always talking to, I've said a bunch of stuff about my son. I have a daughter too, and a son-in-law and a grandbaby. So they're all amazing and awesome. But anyway, we were like, let's go down, see John, go to this opening. I don't really know why this guy wanted me to be a part of this show. So we're at the opening, and he had posted something earlier that day on Instagram. So there was a lot of artists at this show. We each had one piece, and it was a theme. So he had posted something on Instagram about how this was a pinch me moment to have me at the show. And I'm like, well, that was a very nice thing to say, but I still don't understand. Like, so anyway, I met him at the opening, and I said, well, thank you so much for saying such kind things about me. I don't really understand. And he said, well, let me tell you a story. So he grew up. I'm sorry, I don't remember the country he said he was from. Anyway, well, he got into punk rock because he was just like, the world sucks, fuck the world, And he's like, and then I saw your art.
Yep.
And this is along with other things that were influencing him, but one of the things that made him want to do graphic design was seeing the Poconache Punk.
Yeah.
And so then he went down that route and ended up working so he was poor. He just like basically moved to America with a backpack and started working at Cartoon Network. And then when I met him, he was at Disney Animation doing their TV animation. And then he would curate these shows like as he had time. And he had already done a bunch of them. And he was getting kind of close to thinking, maybe I should stop doing this, before he ever found me and reached out to me. And so I was just like, whoa, like he basically saying that my art got him into graphic design. And that was such a cool story. And then he said, hey, if you're ever back in town, I would like to give you a tour of Disney Studios, animation studios. And so we took him up on that because I think we were dropping off my daughter for school at Biola. That's where my son went. That's why he lives down there now. So we're dropping her off. And so the three of us, while she was busy with something, my wife and my son and I went and met up with him. And then he got us passes to go into the Disney studios, and he showed us around. And then we drove to a different lot where he worked. So that lot he showed us was the main lot with like the movie animation and, the classic, like what you think about when you see the old buildings that Disney first moved into that area. And then he took us to another spot and took us to where he works and showed us what he is working on, and super interesting. And I don't know, I just felt so blessed. And then he ended up having me do like maybe 6 total shows with him, like one piece for each. And the first 3 I painted by hand, but then I kind of lost strength. I lost my gumption or something, and the next 3 I ended up getting fine art prints on wood, and so not quite as cool, but the second one was as far like the 200th year anniversary of Frankenstein, something like that. And he ended up buying my painting that I did.
That's awesome.
And all of them are kind of based on the Poconache character, because I was like, well, what would make this unique to me? Because of course, all these artists are going to do super cool stuff. What can I do that would be unique to me? And I thought, well, what if I merge the Poconache Punk with these other things? And so that one was him as Frankenstein. And
That's
that's
cool.
where the Mario one came from
Mhm.
I
too,
saw that
Oh,
one.
okay.
That was a cool series.
because
Yeah.
I had painted that, but then I was like, oh, this would
Yep.
look cool just mocked up as an actual record cover, so it was
Yeah.
different than the painting, but yeah,
Yeah.
that was cool because that was for a Mario show,
Yeah. We shared that I think on our Instagram. I think I on March 10th for Mario Day. Yeah. Yeah. And I loved it. Loved it.
I don't know. I wish I had better ideas, but it's like that's what I came up with. So, but he stopped doing them now. I think he's kind of retired from that. He's on to making his own indie animation films. Like the last one he entered it
Mm.
into a film festival or something, and it was really cool. I mean, things like that, kind of like what we talked about, the kind of stuff that you can't really make up. Like you can't make it happen, you know. You try to force it, it's probably gonna
Right.
go all
Mhm.
weird on you.
Just the idea of like, hey, I'm just gonna throw this out to a band and we'll see what happens, and then just
Yeah,
being open to, whatever, and then, just meeting this person, which leads to this person, which leads to this
yeah,
person, which leads to this person, which leads to
yeah,
Brandon calling you
yeah.
at 3 in the morning.
And the reason why I remember a lot of this stuff too is because um, during the pandemic, when I had some time on my hands, I decided to start writing some of this down. And I have a
Mm,
lot of it written out in a document.
Mm. Good.
And I thought about, putting it out as some kind of, I don't know, printed thing that would kind of be a combination of, a set of, I guess you could call it a small book. More like each chapter would
mhm,
be kind of like an essay, like I did for that box set. I'm not a writer,
mhm,
so
Mhm.
I think that's an easier thing for me to
Mm.
to kind of digest in my mind. Like, how would each of these kind of like connections and how it leads to the next thing be its own chapter or whatever? And then I would have visuals with it. And so
mhm.
I I keep telling people this, and I probably should just pull the
Mm.
trigger and put it together, but I would have to self-publish it, and I would want it to be
Mhm.
color because I wanted
Yeah.
to highlight the art too, because I would want to show
Mhm.
like stuff I did like in high school and stuff to would kind of like what I was talking about,
Mhm.
how I would take every project and kind of put it. I want to because I still
Yeah.
have some of that stuff. I would want to put that into it too, to kind of show the process. My wife said one of the cool stories that I had was, and she said I should share, is that when I was younger, when I was a kid, I didn't really know what a career in art could look like. Um, and but I thought I wanted to do something with art, maybe something,
Mm.
creative because I liked to create things. I like to make things out of boxes or whatever. And when I thought about like, well, what would be a career in art, I thought, well, I like t-shirt designs and I like album covers. Maybe I could do that. Not knowing that I would end up doing that as my within the first 4 years of my career, I would have done both of those things. I think,
Mm,
in some ways I shot way too low, but the thing that how I kind of figured out kind of what a logo was is that there was when I was young in sixth grade or something, like it was middle school, the Olympics, the Winter Olympics, I think it was the Winter Olympics were on, and in the newspaper they would have these little pictograms representing each event, right?
mm.
Mhm.
And they were like the classic like bathroom style characters,
Yeah. Yeah.
those pictograms.
Yeah.
And so I thought they were really
Mhm.
cool. And so I
Mm-hmm.
copied some of them onto a piece of paper and I kind of figured out like how they were like constructed or whatever. Pretty simple stuff. Well, there was a contest in our school district to design a logo for this volunteer, something for volunteers. I can't remember what it was. Anyway, so out of the school district, there was like 200 kids that entered, and these were from middle school and high school. And I thought, oh, I'll do it like those pictograms, you know? And probably mine was the only one that even remotely looked
Yeah.
like a logo because of that. And I ended up winning. Out of 200 kids, and I was in sixth grade.
Oh man,
Nice.
cool.
So I was at the lower end of the age group, you know, and beat out all these high schoolers. But
Yes.
the only thing I can imagine is just that
hmm
I kind of knew what a logo was from that experience of copying those Olympics things. So that was kind of fun too, like
hmm
to think about that and how influenced I was by those graphics.
That's cool.
So
I grew up in Lake Placid area, so the Olympics were huge, and just seeing those logos, I always loved seeing every year what different logo
yeah,
they'd come up with,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
and what logo they come up with
yeah.
for like slalom and all
I
that
don't
stuff.
even
So
know what
it's
really
so cool.
attracted me to them, you know. I think I've always liked order and structure and simplicity. So maybe that's what it was. I have no idea.
Mm.
But a while back, I when I was thinking about being on here, I I thought I should probably make a list of all the album covers I've been involved with. So I made a list, and it's more than I thought it was going to be. But I don't know if I could send this to you or something, but
Yeah.
it's not a
Oh
huge
yeah.
list. It's like most of them are in the 90s. It kind of trailed off after
hmm
that. Um, there were some gaps, but
Mm.
yeah. So I did stuff for 5 Minute Walk. I did stuff for Organic Records. I did stuff for Boot to Head, Betty Rocket, some other smaller one-offs. But
Yeah, that would be cool. If you can send that, I'd love to take a look. I probably have a good chunk of them.
and I don't know if you guys knew that I did the Betty Rocket logo too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that one. Um,
I had no idea.
oh, I did their ska craze compilation covers,
Mm.
and then a band called Frito Boat also was.
Okay.
Yeah.
I did their first
Mm.
album. That one I was very rushed on, but I think it turned out okay. But the one that I am embarrassed by of all of the stuff I've worked on, the most embarrassed I am is the Electrics. That was a 5 Minute
Oh.
Walk thing. And Frank Tate called me up one day and he was like, hey, I could you work on this album? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And he's like, okay, well, it needs to be done like in 3 days or something ridiculous like that.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was like, no, no, I have a full-time job.
Right.
I can't do something, turn around something in less than a week, you know? I mean, that's even fast, right? I mean,
Of
Right.
course. Right.
so anyway, he's like, all right, well, I guess I'll just do it. I was like, so I call him back and I'm like, okay, I'll do it, but you're gonna not have to be picky, you know, or something. I don't know what I, you know,
hmm
stipulations I put on him. But
Sure. Right.
anyway, it was so fast. I mean, and it has illustrations and stuff. I wish I would have went simpler with it, you know, but it's to this day,
hmm
I'm like, I cringe when I look at it. It's just like, oh my gosh, you know. But I think I ended up sending the art files to Masaki. Yeah,
Love Saki.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, Masaki's a great guy for sure. Well, you're talking about all the logos and all those ideas. I mean, we do a thing on this show called the Squid Games, TM because that name definitely isn't taken. We like to play a game with our guests. Would you be up for a game?
Okay, but I'm not very good on my thinking on my feet. So
That's what the editing's for.
Oh, that's okay. That's totally fine. So in this game, you've done all these iconic logos, and it's okay if you don't have it right now. It's like if you were to make a logo for a Pickle Home Companion, what would you what elements would you bring into it?
it's not clever or anything, but fortunately for me, mascots are popular for brands, for companies. And so last year I did quite a few for companies
Right.
here locally.
Hmm.
And so I think a cool pickle character would be pretty fun. Maybe he's either holding a microphone or I don't know. It's something with a pickle character doing something
Yeah.
that entails recording, you know.
But and I was impressed by all like because I was looking through your portfolio when we knew we were having you on, and then when I saw uh the the Mario, but just seeing all that all in like the typography and the fonts and stuff like it I like the simplistic and the what you put into your designs,
Yeah,
and so
yeah.
it'd be interesting to me what what you would think about doing something like that.
I would have to put some real thought into it if I actually did it, but I think it'd be fun. That there was another funny thing I was thinking about telling you guys.
Cool.
So on the Don't Know Cooley P. Ramaswamy Mocha cheesecake. So
Mhm.
on that one, again, Matt
Yeah.
comes to my house or whatever, and he's got this album by Eddie Peabody,
Oh.
and he wants this to be part of it. And he literally described everything that's on that cover. He wants a slice of cheesecake. He wants the background made of green olives. He wants, everything. And so I'm like, okay, I'm a professional. I'm a little worried about copyright infringement. So I was like, what if we put a strip across his face at least?
Sure.
This is such an old record. Probably nobody's gonna know who this is. I'll put a strip across his face to cover up
Hmm.
that part. Maybe it'll keep us out of trouble. I don't know how to edit this type out. Now it'd be easy in Photoshop. But back then I didn't know how to do that. So I
Mhm.
literally put type over this and made it say plays still.
Sure.
And then I put a thing up at the top. So the stereophonic, whatever, jumbo, mumbo jumbo.
Mhm.
And again, I was I was kind of like nervous to put it out there because I knew it was going to national distribution, probably going to be in magazines, all this kind of stuff.
Mhm.
And I don't want us to get sued. I especially don't want me to get sued. And so I think I even at that point
Right.
we actually were doing contracts because at the
Right.
first
Right.
part when I was working to the nail, we didn't do contracts. But I think at this point I wrote into there that I don't not responsible for anything on this because I'm just doing what I was told, right? So
Hmm.
I'm feeling okay about it. And then I'm talking to my dad about it, and I'm like, this weird guy is on it. And he goes, that's the most famous banjo player in the world. And I'm like, oh no. He's like, everybody knows who that is. And I'm just like, no, that's the last thing I want to hear. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I just thought it was some goofy guy
Right.
that, you know, like
Yeah.
Oh,
like
Right.
lots of people
that's so
made
funny.
weird albums, like,
Right.
all the time. Yeah.
Mhm.
Throwaway stuff you find in thrift stores and all this kind of stuff.
All the time.
Yep.
Yep.
I didn't think he was going to be the most famous
Huntington's did that
banjo
all the
player in the
time. Like
world.
just yeah, it was all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Sir, that is John Lennon. No, right,
Who?
but oh my goodness. I mean I know I speak for all of us here. We'd love to have you back to chat more because I mean, I know you say you're not the interesting or whatever, but right
Yeah.
now, I mean, you are the most
Okay.
interesting
Well,
man in the world. I've enjoyed this thoroughly.
Yeah, yeah.
I appreciate that. I didn't know like if you've had
It's
other
very
visual
cool.
artists on or whatever, and then it being kind of a audio format. It's like I heard, when I've listened to other people, they show you stuff on the screen, so I thought, I'll be somewhat prepared. But
Oh yeah, thanks for
So
sharing.
cool.
That stuff is really cool.
Oh no, that was amazing. Yeah, the MxPx stuff alone, but just to see Kevin's face light up for the Blenderhead
Mhm.
stuff, that made my night. So
yeah,
yeah,
well, I appreciate that. I really, I was looking forward to this, but I was a little nervous, to be honest. I
sure.
listened to your last one just today with what's his
Great.
name from the Black Sheep?
Mm.
Oh, Mason. Yeah.
Yeah, it was so casual. I was like, what am I nervous about? Like these guys are so casual. I don't think my family's gonna want to listen to this because we just go on and on and on. But there is an audience for it, I think. But
Oh,
Mhm.
definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
nerds like us like
oh,
to
for sure.
hear the stories,
Yep.
Goodness gracious.
Right.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we're all geeking out for sure. In our audience, that's yeah.
because that's my favorite.
Mhm.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
That's my favorite thing is podcasts when people talk about how they arrived at stuff, like their influences and
Hmm.
stuff like that. That's why I
Mhm.
started
Hmm.
writing all this down is because I was like, I listened to all these people telling their
Hmm.
stories and I love it. Like I love hearing people's stories. And
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
think everybody has, like you guys are making a story right now. Like you guys in you for your
Hmm.
life, you're making that right now.
Hmm.
And someday this will be uh,
Yeah.
that thing that you can talk about, you know?
And thank goodness we've got it recorded so we can be like, what did I say? Did that really happen?
Go back, consult the footage. Yeah.
I know, because a
Oh,
lot of my stories are probably like figments of my imagination by now, like details that
Mm,
never happened,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah.
Well, and we talk about it where we're just
Hmm.
like amazed at the people that we get to talk to, like yourself, like the people that we grew up looking at the logos, listening to the music, seeing their art, and realizing that we can just chat with these
Yeah,
folks.
yeah.
It
Yeah,
makes our story
super
like it's
cool.
pinch me all the time. I'm just like, it's those pinch me moments. So it's been
Yeah.
an honor for sure.
Yeah, I heard you guys talking last time about that, about just the cool access that you have to people you never thought you would talk to. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Never thought.
Yeah, well, and me being a listener too, I can tell you I appreciate it, you know. It's just like you having those conversations lets us in and then you put it out is like lets us in on it and it's like we're there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that's kind of why we try to keep it more
Hmm.
like conversational rather than like strict interview because it's like I don't know, it you get better stories out of it if it's just people hanging
Yeah,
around
yeah,
talking, rather than, like, oh,
Yes.
tell me about
yeah,
this, tell me about that, so it's
Mhm.
that was the best decision we've ever made was to have no plan whatsoever
yeah,
going into things.
yeah.
Yeah, definitely next time we make
Thank
our
you.
way out to
Thank
the
you.
Northwest, we'll definitely have to hang out sometime.
Yeah, I'd love it.
Mhm.
That would be great.
That'd be cool.
Sorry to jump in here at the end,
Oh
but
no, go for it.
one thing I was thinking about this morning is that I think one of the things that's kind of worrisome about AI is that all these connections I've made because I did artwork for people, if they can do it themselves with a robot, with a program, then that eliminates a lot of the real community that you have and connections you're
Hmm.
making
Hmm.
because it's messy working with people, right? It's not always fun. There's feelings
Yeah.
involved, there's opinions involved. It's
Yeah.
messy, but it's just like the rest
Right.
of life.
Hmm.
It has the benefit of you struggling through stuff with this other person, and you come out the other side with a deeper, friendship or understanding or whatever. And again, I would have never
Hmm.
made these friends if I didn't, one, reach out, and then two, a lot of them, it's because I did artwork for them that we built a relationship. If we were just casual friends, we probably wouldn't be as close. I mean, I've done a ton of stuff with Mikey. I've done a ton of stuff with Andy Wiseman. I've done a bunch of, a bunch of stuff, back in the day with Billy, Power. But,
Yeah.
And some of those guys I'm not as close to now as I was then or whatever. But like when I saw Matt Johnson at the TomCon, one of my favorite things that I got to do was sit down with him one morning before stuff started to happen. And I hadn't talked to him in probably 2 decades. And I was just able to share some things with him and hear how his life's going. And it was such a blessing, so those connections we make are real. And,
That's
even
cool.
if I don't know, I guess the main thing is just what I was talking about. Just if AI allows you to do things on your own, I don't know if that's good for all of us as far as the connections we make with people.
Right.
That struggle, that connection, that conversation adds to the soul of the piece. Like that brings the soul, the struggle, right? And you don't in a 10-second while the little thing goes round and round, there's no that's not soul in art, it's not soul in the piece. I mean, I'm married to a artist, and it's just cool to see her process, and it's just cool to see that struggle, that connection, and what comes out of that.
Yeah. Like the last, I don't know, 10 covers I've done for Shorthanded, it's like Andy's original idea was like, oh, maybe something like American tradition tattoo. I'm like, I could maybe fake that, but like, don't you have a tattoo artist that you like? And he's like, oh yeah, I'll ask him if he wants to collaborate with you. I said, yeah, because he is authentic. If he does the sketches and I build the art on it to be clean, to be more like, I don't know, professional, like for print, he's great at what he does.
Yeah.
He's a tattoo artist.
Sure. Right.
I can take that art. And so it's been a collaboration for us on every piece since then. And they have a very specific look because of that, but it's not one person. It's 3 of us. It's Andy's ideas mixed with Judd's ideas. They come up with the original sketch, and then Judd will color it by hand and stuff. And then I take that, put it into the layout, rebuild the whole thing. I take days, to rebuild it and, clean vector art, mostly for my own, like nobody's going to really notice this detail, but someday if it ever gets printed on anything, it's going to be ready. But that kind of collaboration is so cool,
right.
It's different than any art I've really ever done, and so but I get to be involved with it. It's kind of like a band. It's different players, they bring different things to it, and somehow the end result is a unique thing because of the collaboration. Well, maybe Brock can come in and do the outro post podcast.
Oh man, Kevin, you want to try it and then see what Brock would do? Oh, it's so good! I love it. We're never going to collaborate with Brock. It'll be great.
Well, that's the news from Lake Scabagon, where all the vector art is superb. All of the cheesecake are on a banjo player who happens to be famous. And all of the phone calls from Brandon Ebel are at 3 a.m.
Yes!
Perfectly drawn up podcast.
Oh, onward, pickle soldiers!
Nice.
And this conversation has been way above average.
Thank you.
Amazing.
I love it.
Thank you so much, John.
I'm out.
Dude, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was one of those like conversations I'm just like on the edge of my seat, and then also like as I said before, looking down at all the different reactions from you guys. We got to have him back when Brock's here, because I feel like Brock will be geeking out as well. I mean, they have forget that.
Brock
They
probably saw it in person.
Yeah.
Brock saw it right there.
Yeah, Brock probably just walked by his house the other day. I mean, like, forget you, Brock. I love you, Brock. I missed you. I'm so sorry. I apologize. I do apologize. Right?
This bonus intro and outro is sponsored by Dick Broadus Ambulatory Service. When you arrive safe, remember to tell people who brought us. Dick brought us.
Welcoming now to the Pickle Home Companion podcast, John Nissen, the founder of the Nissan brand of automobiles. I have one. I like it. I am super excited about the economy, the comfort, the responsive control. Honestly, there's not been a better vehicle than the Nissan. So welcoming to a Pickle Home Companion, John Nissen. And that's the news from Lake Scabagon, where all of the sedans are strong, all of the SUVs are good looking, and all of the imported autos are above average.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.